Hi everyone, welcome back to our Farm Salons. We are joined here with Mo. It's going to be another exciting session. So Mo here is the former lead product manager for Siri. So all the Apple AI stuff. And he's currently the DesignPro CEO. So DesignPro is like your AI co-pilot for design. Helps you give feedback and actionable tips to improve your design. And we'll see that in action in this cool workshop, right, Mo? And we're using the latest model for ChatGPT. Okay, Mo, I think you have some cool things to share for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. So how about I just first set the stage of why, we are trying to solve the problem we're solving. So we spoke to teams, we spoke to designers, and what we found out is that, the feedback cycle for designers is quite slow. For example, when you have to recruit users, schedule users, interview them. Then even once you interview them, you got to analyze, the interview results, and that's like an hour's worth. And I love doing user interviews. I really do. But when we think about entering this AI type of world where software is being, generated, where the product development process is moving very fast, I think we need to rethink about how designers are also shortening that feedback loop. And to understand why it's even important, I look to the example for programmers. So programmers have this tool called the compiler. And when they write code at any time, they can try to compile their code. And either the code compiles, in which case it's great feedback, okay, my code works, or it doesn't compile, in which case I get a set of errors and bugs, and I can start tackling them. So because programmers have this very instant, fast feedback, they can go through a lot more iterations, and then they can come up with a much more refined outcome. And what we came to realize is there's no equivalent of a compiler for the design world. And, user testing is one thing, but as I mentioned, it's slow. Getting feedback from your stakeholders is another approach. However, stakeholders don't always understand what is the right feedback to give. Everyone has their own opinion, right? When it comes to design, the button should be blue. No, it should be this, should be that. There is no one right answer, which makes getting quality feedback much harder. It can be very subjective. And so the kind of feedback that we're looking at is actually generating more objective type of feedback, and one that drives business outcomes. And that's the area that we are trying to explore, which is how does design deliver on actual outcomes? For example, if it's a website, how does your design actually drive leads to signups, for example, right? Or if it's an onboarding flow, how does your design help the user reduce friction and get through the onboarding flow, much more simply? So design always has an outcome. It's just that there's a disconnect between the feedback we get and the actual outcome we're trying for. The last point I'll just make about this problem is that there's conflicting expectations. So designers, we tend to want to deliver perfection, right? And we want our product to be great. We want to look good. We want to impress the customer. At the same time, the business wants to ship fast. And there are really good reasons why, a business should actually ship fast. So how do we deliver something that's high quality while also, being able to ship fast? And so that's why we came up with this idea of an AI design mentor. It's like a Grammarly for design, which analyzes your design and then generates feedback. So I'll stop there in case there's any questions or anything before I go into showing you how it works. So yeah, if you have any questions,
it looks like you trained your your model on like refactoring UI and then groups. I think heuristics or something like that. Those are some objective. Well, at least the heuristics one. That's like an objective view, and refactoring UI was built by I think Adam. Right, like he has really good visual design sense, and it's interesting how we can consider how each person's taste comes into the feedback cycle too. Like you can expand that model too, right? Like in the future.
Definitely you can. And I think that's going to be the next generation. We're going to talk about that, where, the first layer is really best practices. It's more objective. So at least I know, that what I'm doing is aligned with the best practice principles. But the next level, level 2, is actually being able to help AI generate results that are actually tailored to my personality, to my style, maybe my business style guide, maybe my company's design system. This is the next level, what's going to be coming up in AI, at least for design.
All right. Maybe we can see a demo of how it works on some design examples.
Sounds good. So let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you basically 3 parts to this. One is introduce you to our plugin by using our webpage as an example, or at least an old version of our webpage. I will then show what the results were on the Swarm webpage. So Alexis, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. And then finally, I'll actually talk about some new generation like R&D that we're doing to make this even more advanced and give more strategic and higher level feedback. So I hope that sounds good. The way it works is, you go to our AI Pair Designer plugin on the Figma community, and you load it. You just do a simple sign in with Google or your email address. And right now we just support single frame. Okay, so you click on your frame and it'll load that frame. In the future, we'll be able to support multi-frame. Multi-frame is better for like user flows. If you're doing onboarding, trying to get feedback on your actual the user journey. But for now, it is single frame. So it's ideal for websites and more like content, ads, dashboards, things like that. You can then add details. So this is the page that we are still developing. But essentially, you can choose, what I want feedback on. I could even type in the goals. So, I want to convert leads into signups. Okay. And in the future, we're actually working on being able to upload your design system. So if you're working in a bigger company, typically you have a design system. There's we're talking to companies that have like lots and lots of components in their design system, and you just can't remember all of them. So we're actually pulling in those components. You'll see in a moment how that might work. And you can even upload your style guide. You even may have a toggle. I want feedback that is more friendly, or maybe I want feedback that's a more professional, serious. So there's different ways to customize, and that's something we're excited to get on. And all you do is you click review. It does take a minute to do the analysis. So I already did one ahead of time that I'm going to show you. This is the feedback that it generated for my website. And you can see some of the themes. This is call to action, which is also called CTA or conversion. And then we go into some of the topics like hierarchy, layout, copy, accessibility, and so on. So here's one on accessibility. I like to save this maybe for another demo, because we're working on improving this and making recommendations on the colors and type fonts that you should use. So we're improving this, but that's something we're working on, is accessibility. This one here is a new release that we just made. It's around copy. And you can see here it says revise the headline to be more specific and benefit-oriented. Now, one thing you'll notice, the first thing, is that this is very action-oriented. It's also very succinct. That's actually us doing things in the background to improve upon your regular vanilla ChatGPT, which typically tends to be very verbose and very descriptive. So that's one of the things we observed, an insight about designers, is they want something more actionable, something very clear and succinct. So that's what we generated here. And then if you want to see the actual component, it'll go and connect to the component. So this is also something ChatGPT cannot do right now. You cannot actually go to the specific component. Then we offer specific suggestions. Again, trying to make it very succinct, understanding your context, which is that this is a web page. In a mobile app, we'll understand the context that you're in a mobile app. You don't have a lot of space, so you need micro copy. You need very short, succinct copy. All of these things are context that we understand behind the scenes. It allows you to go through a few different suggestions. So we've given 3 suggestions here. And if I want to change it, I can just change it. So it allows me to make the edit on my design frame. One thing that I really encourage my designer to do is to really explain why, right? Really understand the why. This is very important for designers because there are studies showing that the more designers go out and collaborate with all the different departments, marketing, engineering, the business, even the CEO, it's very important for the designer to understand why and to have a reason and understanding behind their actual actions. And so it's a secondary benefit, but it is nonetheless a benefit to empower designers with more solid understanding. And then if you like this particular feedback, you can tell our system, hey, I want more of this. Please give me more of this, right? If you didn't like it, you can say, please don't give me that, thumbs down. And you can go down this list. I'm not going to go through everything, of course, but there's a whole bunch of different copy. You know, there's a call to action. So it's asking me to modify my get started section here. So it's given me also some guidance. And then I have hierarchy. So if I want to think about how to help the user consume information, layout as well. And then, of course, accessibility. And there are 17 findings. If I also want to see it all on the canvas instead, I can just click Show Canvas. And now I can just go just like I normally do and just go down and actually just review all the feedback. So that's really quick on an introduction of the tool. And if there's no questions, I will go on to the swarm analysis. So.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm gonna be holding my breath. Hopefully it works. So anyway, again, I did this behind the scenes just to save us a little bit of time. And this is the analysis. It found 8 findings, and
that's less than yours, though.
It is less than mine. So you're doing a better job for sure. Yes, that's good. So I'm just going to go by sort of the more like obvious topics first. So starting with copy, what I can see here, it actually says to reframe the copy to highlight the benefit that the customer will gain from hiring the AI consulting teams. Now, again,
so it's like a flip on the sentence structure.
Yes.
focus on the client benefit before
Exactly.
what the action is. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you got it. And so again, I'm going to go to the inspect, the frame here, and I can go through a number of different suggestions. I can't actually insert it because I don't have editing rights yet, but you can insert it as you wish. But yeah, essentially the reason it gives me is the copy focuses more on the feature rather than the benefit. So exactly what Alexa says, it's sort of flipping it around. What is the benefit of hiring an exceptional consulting team? I know it's maybe obvious to some of us, but to a user coming here, it's not very obvious. So it gives you some examples that hopefully will inspire you. Here's another one. It says, make the headline more specific, benefit-oriented. Let me see what that's referring to. So it's actually talking about this action. It looks like it's asking me to book a free consulting session. And so what it's saying is the headline is somewhat vague. It does not clearly convey a specific benefit or reward. And so it's actually given some ideas here. It says, secure your spot for a free AI strategy session, book your free AI consultation and boost your project, get expert AI advice with a free consultation. So any of these appeal to you, Alexis?
I think the last one focuses on the benefit, right? So the expert advice, AI expert advice is the benefit.
Yes.
But it's like assumed on the copy the original copy that's it.
Yeah, it's really subtle things that you sometimes when you're doing the designing, you go like, of course, that's what it means, right? You're going to get expert advice. But sometimes to a user, it's like not dead obvious. And that's actually something we are finding out with our own product is it needs to be really clear. There's so much information, so much things to sort through these days that users are just inundated. So, yep.
And it's, I think on a design critique point of view, it's kind of hard to instantly generate feedback for everything, right? Or like to consider additional opinions without going through, like with my team, for example, at Swarm, right? Like we all do collaborative crits. But then it does take time to like put sticky notes together. But I don't think the tool will eliminate that process entirely, but it enhances the debates between people on what should be the correct approach, right?
Yes.
What's curious to me though is like how adding like an objective or design goal in the context setting section influences the answers.
Yeah, I should have just also re-emphasized in the business goal, I actually asked specifically, can you help me convert lead to sign up? So it's going to give you a little bit more, tailoring towards that objective.
It's like a marketing slant, like that's going to be the purpose. Okay.
And you may try other goals as well. You may have other goals for this website than simply, signups as well.
Yeah, like annoy the user. We should try that, like to test your app really well. All right, maybe we can go through more feedback.
Sure. We got just a few more. So this one here says, break down the sentence into shorter, more digestible parts. Again, I'm going to try to understand what element it's talking about. And this is it right here. So it's saying the sentence is long and complex, which can be overwhelming for the users. For me, I would say probably yes. It's a bit of a mouthful, but if I were to go through this, list of suggestions, let's see, partner with top strategies, collaborate with AI expert. Yeah, I think for me, like the second or third sort of reads better. I kind of like the third. I don't know. What about you, Alexis? What do you think?
So it made it more succinct Um, it made it also, it removed the redundancies. That's clear to me. And then I
Okay.
can just like insert things I like, right? Like the award-winning piece, like that's social proof. I do not want removed,
Sure.
right? Uh, but it is more efficient with word usage, which is good, right? Like cognitive overload is bad to have.
Got it. Yeah, and I think tools like this, I mean, I hope that we're going to see more tools that assist the designer. So the designer is actually the final decision maker, right? It's not going to tell the designer what to do, but it's like giving suggestions. The designer can take it or leave it or edit it, as well. So
One thing I'm curious about is how are you thinking as a founder and product person, product lead, CEO on this when ChatGPT becomes even more multimodal, right? Gemini.
yeah,
How do you see your product roadmap for Design Pro evolving based off of that?
yeah. So our hypothesis is to really fit into a specific workflow, and that is currently right now Figma. Figma, as I mentioned, these frames have subcomponents. And while ChatGPT may go multimodal, right, it will support images, video, all of that. It's still kind of a general tool, right? It's the same thing at Siri when we built it. It's built for the average person. So will ChatGPT give feedback on the screenshot? Yes. Will it actually give feedback going into a Figma frame? I think no. But if you then say, hey, what about Figma prototypes? What about multi-frame Figma files? I think that's deviating from ChatGPT's like focus on building something that's more universal. So that's how I believe the AI startups need to think: is what are the niches, what are the depths that you go in. If you imagine being a very sharp pointed axe, to go into very specific use cases, and then from there you can kind of bring people up, right? Then we can think of, okay, how do we build a Grammarly, for design? How do we allow Figma design, but also your Canva, maybe importing your websites? How do we create maybe an editor that allows you to get feedback so it's more tailored? That's how we're thinking about it. I hope it works, but that's how we're going about it right now.
Got it. I have more questions, but Pia has two. These are feature requests, maybe. Can you
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
Can you calibrate the persona that gives the feedback? That's one.
Yeah.
And then two is, does your plugin provide feedback as a senior designer? Or can you also input characteristics of your ideal customer? So what's the persona of the person giving the feedback, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've thought about it. We'd love to create a persona of your user. How do you create a persona of your user? Well, there's a number of ways you can, for example, take or analyze a persona that you've actually designed or created inside of Figma. You can analyze that, and you can take that. You can take reviews from your users on the App Store. You can look at interviews with certain users. So we have to explore a number of different data sources where we would have to analyze it, structure it, and essentially, yes, create a persona. We are actually, this is not really answering your question directly, but I can show you, a design here where we're not necessarily creating a persona, but we're creating sort of like a use case or template. So this is a template here for improving copy, and the purpose is for websites and app microcopy to really help increase clarity. This is accessibility. This is polishing your UI, which is sort of catching your UI issues before handoff, and this is conversions. So not personas directly, but kind of guiding people towards these templates and these scenarios where each button takes on a different personality, and it will give you a different type of, feedback, a flavor of feedback, right? So that's...
Yeah, like the performance marketer or growth designer versus like the
Yes.
accessibility specialist.
Yes.
Or the, UX writer or senior visual designer.
That's
these
right.
are the innate
Exactly.
personas relevant to
I like
design
that actually way of thinking. The conversions is almost like getting a performance marketer on your team. Hey, performance marketer, come and give me feedback. Hey, accessibility expert, give me feedback. Hey, visual design guru, give me some feedback. So yeah, in those ways, you can almost like connect this to a person that you would normally try to get feedback, but unfortunately, you don't have always access to these types of people, right? That's why we're building this. Yeah.
But that's an interesting, like expansion that you can explore though. Like one thing I use ChatGPT for is like just based on our other salon with our AI Hive lead Tim, right? Is like you can input the persona first before it provides you certain feedback. But what you've done here is built the infrastructure so that the model understands Figma and its frames and the
Yes.
structure behind the design. Like that's
Yes.
what's missing. And that's pretty cool, right?
You got it. And I probably should have explained this a little bit in advance right at the beginning, but when we look at this frame, we actually break this frame down into your different components and sections, and we classify them. So we know that this section here is a hero page. We know that this is sort of your, your credibility and the logos. If you have a pricing or testimonials, we'll look for that as well. So we classify it, and then because we can classify it, we understand more the context behind it, and then we can apply the right principles according to that. Whereas ChatGPT is more general, we try to break it down into these subcomponents.
I think the value is in understanding the design tool data structure. You're starting with Figma first, and then refining the model with the mental archetype of a expert designer. That's really relevant to designers. Well, especially in the more early stage junior level folks. I think this is perfect. And I think one weakness, I guess, for early level designers is they cannot necessarily take on all the design roles yet, right? You can kind of specialize in visual design, but sometimes you kind of not sure about the copy yet, right? Or like you'd like a second opinion on the layout, but it's not there yet. It's not as fast.
They have gaps.
With a Copilot.
They have gaps in their knowledge, and so yeah, I guess in that way maybe it helps you become a bit more of a complete designer. Obviously, I don't think there's anything that replaces action, but it's getting the feedback on that action, right? That is part of that learning process. So hopefully we can facilitate.
What will be interesting actually, Mo, is like if you do gather tons of designs from people from enterprises as training data for your stuff.
Yes.
But that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's what the thumbs up and thumbs down is, the very, very beginnings of that, of actually accumulating feedback that's relevant to certain design frames, because the next level beyond this, and this is where one gets into being a true AI company, is actually creating your own model and training on that model. There are a lot of companies out there that say, oh, we're an AI company. It's not true. They're not an AI company. They use AI. It's like saying I'm an internet company. Of course you are. You're on the internet. But a true AI company is one where you start gathering all this data. You get feedback on what people want to see generated from that data, and then you can start training your own model.
Yes, for sure. And we can help you with that if anyone in the audience needs that resource. All right. Maybe we can check out the other sections or the next few designs.
Yeah, sounds good. So next few designs, let's see. So here is a design from a designer at Miro, and she was creating this dashboard and, was close to handing it off to engineering. So we decided to give her an AI plus human feedback. And the human element is really about experimental, to try to get ideas on what else you want to get feedback on. So you can see here she's getting the standard feedback on the UI. So there's a few errors or few things that could be better. But you can also see here that we're starting to add references. So these two references happen to be from Mobbin. And the idea here is, rather than having to go to Mobbin to do a search, you actually just get the component, the actual component that it's referring to from Mobbin, right here as a reference. So that's one. The number two is starting to give feedback on more higher level decision making. In this case, deciding what UX patterns you want to actually choose to go with. So in this case, she decided on a button. It's called this basic view, but the AI actually did catch it, and then we elaborated on it. The feedback here says, hey, okay, I see your basic view, but have you considered an option to collapse the sidebar menu of the template picker? And it gives a reason why that's a better approach. And it gives also the references again. So you can see specific examples of it. So the feedback we got was, oh, okay, hey, I didn't even think about that, right? Yeah, that's a good idea. So it's kind of helping you get ideas, make sure you didn't miss something that otherwise, could have been a good option. So that's Miro. And then there's also a Facebook design here from actually someone who's our advisor. He worked at Facebook, and this was his design. So again, here, the system has caught this UI widget and offered a new UX pattern that the user should think about, something that's more visually representative so that you can see the data rather than having to type the data. And now here we're actually connecting user behavior. So this is the user behavior of cognitive load. So if I click here, I'll actually go to growth design, and I'll understand what cognitive load means. This is, again, about driving towards outcomes. So how do I help my user have a lower cognitive load? This is one feature to consider. Here's another one here. You already saw the suggestions of copy, but you can see here it's really structuring the feedback around conversion. So it's to increase conversion, why don't you consider these suggestions? So these are specifically around how do you increase conversion rate. Again, trying to drive towards outcomes. The last example here I'll show is about a checklist. So, designers have so many things that they have to keep in their head. The last thing they want to, have to remember is remembering all the states and all the different edge cases that they have to think about. So this is a very experimental feature here where we're actually generating a checklist for you and at least allowing you to see what has not been completed. And in the future, we could actually generate the ones that are completed. So if you want to check these off, it will actually just generate those edge cases. And then that way you feel more confident when you go to engineering, you're actually, giving engineering all the different cases that you didn't think about, but it looks like you thought about. So I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer. But that's just a little bit of where we are at the moment.
It's cool that there's a need for referencing really high quality benchmarks, right? The folks at growth.design, you understand a lot about behavioral psychology, specific frameworks that exists out in the world that can be applied to design, right?
Yeah.
Or, utilize in dark patterns. But that part, that's super useful. And the Mobin one, because we regularly use Mobin for inspiration too. We have an account we share. That's super helpful, actually.
Nice.
Referencing existing, what they call this, component benchmarks, right? Or suggesting components, design patterns, suggesting entirely different behaviors to design for, right? That's super helpful. How do you feel about or what do you think about how designers will feel about it? Like with AI, all of the layoffs happening, and how hard it is in general to get a job these days. Like, do you feel like AI will take over? Not really. Will AI enhance the process? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I do have a perspective on this. Let me show just a couple of slides that I think illustrate what might happen, both on the positive side, but also if we want to, look at job loss, that's also a consideration. So the first thing I like to just point out is that back in 2010, there were only about 7 million monthly active designers, primarily using Adobe, right? And I won't go through all
those are the paid ones, though. Like, that doesn't include the pirated companies.
Yes. Official. You're right. Official numbers here only. And there are many reasons why. It was a desktop. There's a license fee. Pro designers were pretty much the only designers designing at the time. And today you have a very different world. We have over 100 monthly active designers. Canva actually has 100 monthly active designers already. And there's many reasons why we came to this world. It's browser-based. We moved to a subscription model. Adobe actually moved over many years ago, but it had a huge impact on the number of people that use Adobe. Collaboration features, and now we're seeing more people like PMs and marketers and so on. However, I actually think that this is already actually quite a limited number. I think it's going to grow even more. And that's where I think AI will actually increase the number of designers. And my prediction is that not too far away from now, we'll actually have a world where pretty much you have 1 billion designers. And what do I mean by 1 billion designers? I don't mean that you have 1 billion jobs of designers, but that everybody is going to participate in that design process. And so what does that mean for us as designers? I think these are the two groups that are most interesting to me right now in terms of how this 1 billion is going to play out. The first is the top 10% of designers. These are the designers that are effective designers. I think they will move away from being creators to more like curators. So they won't necessarily generate the design themselves, but they will be the decision makers of the design. And then you'll have this new pool of designers as well. You'll have a lot of PMs, marketing people, come in to design. And we're going to need designers to help them, right? It's not about they are taking our job. No, we're actually increasing the pie of people getting involved in design, which means actually part of the role of this 10% is to actually guide these new pool of designers. So I think there'll be a shift of the definition of designers from people doing like pixel pushing to designers actually doing more curation and also more guidance to this, helping this new pool of designers. I think there will be some job losses of people in the middle. So if you want to call them maybe mid-tier designers that are still stuck into, the pixel pushing, so to speak, the actual like day-to-day grind, I think they are the group that will be most effective. I don't have it on this graph because I was thinking of a more optimistic perspective, but I do think that group is the group that could be squeezed, which just gives us even more reason to try and level up our skill sets to get into this top 10%, right? This curation type of design. So I think the best way to protect our job is really to level up and to start becoming more of a curator. So I'll stop there. If you have any questions or comments, I can go into depth, what curation really means. But that's roughly how I think this could play out. So definitely some, people will be affected, absolutely. But it also means the people who will move into curation, the top designers, I think will have even more power. I think they'll even have more of a bigger pool of people to really lead, right, and guide. Yeah.
I think when it comes to curation, it's setting up the system level philosophies, right? Like, let's say for an organization or for a team, okay, like what are the design principles we follow when we establish, our UI, our brand experience across different touch points. Like it's the playbook writer who the designers become the playbook writers. And that's hard, honestly. Like it does require a lot of knowledge, wide knowledge, but also with enough depth to curate something. That's how I see it. What a curator could be like, right? Like, plus, I guess something we call out a lot in our network of fractionals and consultants is the domain expertise in areas. So like Mo, like you're a domain expert in AI, plus a domain expert in understanding what good design really is, right? That enables you to build the playbook for this particular product. But how will other people build that same domain expertise in other areas? That's what's interesting to us, at least.
Yeah. Potentially all the more reason to find, you can say your niche, right? Your intersection. Find what it is for you, create your own corner of the internet for yourself and be that domain expertise, for that. While, yes, we have AI, coming in and taking some of the jobs in terms of the execution, the pie is also getting bigger. I hope the number of people that participate in design will actually become bigger. So becoming that domain expertise, could be a sustainable way to, move forwards. Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. Actually, one more question from me, Mo. Like, how are you thinking about being a curator? Like, how do you define it? Or how might mid-level design folks who just focus on pixel pushing become more of that?
Yep, that's a question that I've been thinking about. So, I have a few points here. I think, again, easier to show you than saying it. But I thought about how do you make this transition, right, to curation? And there are several points. I won't go into depth into it, but just so you get the idea. Problem solving. This is something Figma even talks about, that Figma, the tool, is actually a problem solving tool. And I think designers need to think of themselves not as designers, but as problem solvers. And it is harder for AI to actually do problem solving because there's a lot of context that needs to be understood. Humans are still the best at understanding context. So if you want to be a great designer, if you want to keep your job, be a great problem solver. Learn how to solve problems quickly, effectively, and so on. Taste masters, I still feel there's room in the world for people exerting their own style, their own brand. You have Airbnb, it, right? Apple, right, has created a premium commodity product just through its own sense of style. And AI right now, I met a designer who used ChatGPT. That was one of his points, is that, yeah, ChatGPT is useful, but it just makes me sound like everyone else, I want AI that actually helps me be my own style, or, at least augments it. Decision-making. What I showed you in my feedback tool is sort of basic decision-making. What UI fixes I should make, accessibility, things like that. But there's also very strategic level decision-making. What UX pattern should I use? What problem should we be solving? Who should we be solving for? So moving up into the higher levels of decision-making and practicing more and more of that would, I think, help you transition. Bring cross-functional, I mentioned this, being able to go into marketing, into engineering, marketing, be the guides to design, not the gatekeepers to design. So you're really leading a larger market of design, all these other designers, right? You're the domain expert. We talked about that. Identifying risk upfront. This is an area maybe AI could also come into, but at the moment, risk is also understanding a lot of context. AI that we're talking about right now is generative AI, but actually the best products, and Marty Kagan talks about this in his book Inspired, is that the best teams are actually de-risking their product upfront. So usability risk, value risk, both are being de-risked higher up the value chain. And then the last is creativity, being able to mix and match. I think AI could actually augment our creativity rather than actually diminish it. So how do you use AI tools effectively to actually be more creative, right? So you got to use the AI to actually be more creative in your recommendations and designs. So anyway, really quick, but hopefully that gives some sense.
All right. I agree with all points. These are part of our core values and the reason why we love bringing you on, of course, Mo. we align on a spiritual level, like kindred spirits. The problem-solving aspect and making design kind of like ubiquitous, right? Like as a taste master, style person, bringing in context from all departments, making sense of that, and then contributing to more strategic layer decision making and problem solving. That's I think that's the role of the designer, especially those looking to move into more senior roles or looking to start their own consultancies or become independent consultants. Because you will want to collaborate, like let's say, with a customer or a client through those areas. Like you won't be able to effectively design without those skills anyway.
Exactly.
Which we are interested to expand on that world.
Great.
But yeah. Do we have questions from the audience? I'll count from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I think we're good. Thank you so much, Mo, for
Thanks,
this
Alexis.
very fun and engaging session. We'll see your face again everywhere on socials.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.